Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome, everybody, to our One World encounter with the Zohar. Um, let's begin by inviting in the lineage of Kabbalists, the Rav and Karen, Rav Shalad, Rav Brainwine, the Ariya Kodesh, Rav Chal, Rav Tarfon, Rav Abraham Azulai, and Rav Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, Rav Kolonim Shapira Pia Setzna, the Baal Shem Tov, Rav Mordechai of Chernobyl, Rav Shimon Yachai, and all the students. One soul with Yosef Tzaddik, Joseph the Righteous in Shechem. Also today, two very noteworthy anniversaries of Evolution. One is Rav Yaakov Abu Chatzira, and the other is Rav Moshe son of Maimon, the Rambam, who is a very, very significant Kabbalist. So we have their assistance today, which is great. It's the 20th day of Tevet of Capricorn. Sure, you're all sensing the energy of Capricorn. It's a very challenging month. It's one of the 3 negative months of the year, and so it is definitely very challenging. As we are in volume 8. This week's portion is Shemot. It's the first portion of the second book, and as we connect to this book, let's have a consciousness of sending out energy of healing to everyone we know. We also want to have an energy, let's have a consciousness of understanding as we connect to these verses. We are connecting to the flawless universe, and within that flawless universe is the ability to channel energy of healing. So let's have in mind everyone we know who needs healing, those we've listed in our WhatsApp groups. Also, let's have a consciousness of connecting to Ahavat Chinam, unconditional love for the world. Let's also have a consciousness of manifesting the energy of immortality, manifesting Messiah consciousness, ending conflict and removal of all negative energy in our world, protection from evil eye, protection from evil speech. And just think about anybody we know who has any kind of challenges, and let's send them energy of fulfillment. So we are at verse 21, and the title of this article is "Do Not Eat the Bread of One Who Has an Evil Eye." This is not a gluten thing. It's not what it's about. I know that's what you were thinking. Do we have someone who will volunteer to read English for us today? All right, Ron, you're on. Thank you. So let's start off with the relevance for this passage, and we'll talk about exactly. It's going to generate a lot of dialogue, I would anticipate, but who knows?
Okay, the relevance. Our social and physical environment exerts profound influence upon us. If we consort with negative individuals, inevitably we will walk in their ways and emulate their self-destructive deeds.
Okay, so it's this idea of like what you let in your environment has an impact on what's going on. The environment we're in has an impact on how we are. You know, when we see this reference to negative people, let's not think good or bad. I mean, the light bulb has energy flowing into it and flowing through it. There's a positive pole and a negative pole. Neither one of those, it's not good or bad. We don't want to judge the energy. People who are more sharing, we look at sharing as positivity. It's literally the positive pole. And negativity is receiving. That's the negative pole. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just the way it is. But if we want to manifest more blessings in our life, we want to become beings of sharing, of overcoming our nature. And if we're surrounded with people who don't have the ability to overcome that nature, that is going to affect us and how we show up in our life and the consequences of that. So the first thing we're getting today is this ability to have an awareness about the environment we're in and boundaries that we need to set. Yes, Ellen, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have any synopsis or relevance in this particular
No problem.
Zohar.
No problem. That means
Where are we?
We're at verse 21, and some of the earlier versions of the text we're using don't have a relevance section.
got it. Thank
It was
you.
hit or miss whether Ron would have it or not, but he has it. So that means you have to pay extra attention because you don't have it in front of you. No worries. Yes, Andrea.
So I know we're about to read this, but what if we are surrounded by and it's because we have to be, like, work or
Yeah, what about a work?
environment?
I have much choice about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just be burning sage all the time. No, that's not always the answer.
Yeah.
By the way, but that
That's
is one of the tools. I mean, it's been used for
Yeah.
generations. It's burning sage to, to cleanse that environment. So, to a certain degree, when we're stuck in a situation, there's gonna be, we need to avail ourselves of our tools. Bring
Yeah,
have the
that's
Zohar with us. Read
Yes.
the Zohar. Use the 72 names and the consciousness associated with each of those names that are apropos to the situation. And it's like walking with eyes wide open. Literally, it's like let's not kid ourselves about the environment we're in. Because
Right.
sometimes we've all found ourselves trapped in an environment. We can tell ourselves we're okay. That's one way of dealing with it, but not the best way. I had this conversation with someone this morning about, about emotional responses. And it just reminds me of that. And the person was saying, I need to become more callous, more like numb to my emotional response. And I'm like, we're probably talking about the same thing, but like, we don't want to ignore what we're feeling. We want to be more attuned to what we're feeling, because that is our ability to figure out what's going on. Now, we don't want to react to the feeling necessarily, but we need to be with that feeling so that on the one hand, we can be more attuned to what's going on. On the other hand, we don't want someone else's pain to become our pain. Maria?
Yeah, talking on the subject and just relating to Andrea, it's true, and that's part of setting boundaries. And I think I consider myself very good at that. If I don't like something, it's because it doesn't feel right. I set boundaries right away with anybody, whoever it is, family, non-family. But it's funny, I was cleaning my office beginning of the year with spraying it with sage, and somebody came from the office because of that energy. And somebody came to my office and said, oh, what are you spraying? I said, sage. And she goes, oh, are you trying to clean negativity? And I was like, yes. I just like that, cold. Yes, no sugarcoating anything. She goes, oh, okay. And now when people try to come to my office, they ask permission. They stand at the door and they ask, can I walk into your office? I'm like, sure, yes, you can. Otherwise, they'll be storming in and just interrupting my moment.
That's great. I mean, listen, those are boundaries, especially in the workplace. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. Listen, we have a friend who will remain nameless who was saging a portion of her building because there had been something that had occurred there, and as a group of people that wanted to sage, and the fire alarms went off. So you want to try and avoid that.
Do you ever did you say bring a Zohar to the workplace, David?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have a full set in my office and a full set at home. I mean, I'm not fooling around.
That works.
I'm not fooling around. But I do, but also have it there because right now I'm in my office and I want to study. And if I'm at home and I want to study, what am I going to do? So, and there should be no barriers to people getting full sets of Zohars. It's a very, I remember when my first full set came and was shipped to my home, 17 years ago. It was usually I don't have the reaction when I get a book in the mail. That was a very emotional. I was sweating.
Well, I keep the one that we read during the week, whatever book 7 we're at now.
Or
I keep
eight now.
my office. Yeah. I keep that
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. This holds true for our own ego when we indulge or yield to the cravings of our ego, eating the bread of an evil person. We eventually fall to the lowest depths, Egypt.
Okay, so this is what's going on. The reference, do not eat the bread of one who has evil eye, is a reference to our ego. This is listening to our own BS. It's like buying our own story. We're lying to ourselves. Listen, this bodysuit that we have gives us the impression we don't even have a soul. But each of you does. A very important soul. A soul that the world needs for you to fully manifest. So one of the things we're getting here is this ability to make a deeper soul connection. And it's not just so you will feel more purposeful and meaningful life experiences and protection from chaos. It's not just that. It's part of it. It's because the world needs it. Your soul didn't come here to make you feel better. Your soul's here to remove blockages from your soul to make the world better. And this is our desire to receive for the sake of sharing. It's the distinction between the desire to receive for the self, body consciousness, ego. If I don't worry about me, who's worrying about me? Body consciousness. Or my soul consciousness, I'm here to make the world a better place. I changed myself. I literally changed the whole world. So the references of do not eat the bread of one who has evil eye, you're thinking, logically, I got to be careful who I break bread with. Well, there is that environmental aspect of it. But the other aspect, and the more important aspect of it is drawing a distinction between my desire to receive for the self, and we say that's negative because that's like the negative pole. I'm taking everything in. Or my desire to receive for the sake of sharing. Am I a channel? Am I an open channel? Am I receiving to share? Because the more I receive to share, the more I can receive to share. We're at verse 21 in volume 8, Shemot. That makes sense? Now, by the way, while we're talking about this, and so it's the ego, and that what are the lowest depths that we potentially fall to? The lowest depth we potentially fall to is Egypt. Why are we picking on Egypt? What did they do? So Egypt is this energy. It's like ground zero for desire to receive for the self. That's why Jacob and his sons ended up there, and all those souls, those 70 souls they traveled. That's why they ended up there. They had to do their work there. We're going to see in a couple of moments why that was. But Egypt for us represents body consciousness, desire to receive. This is why, and I read that what the Rav wrote, this is why they were like, experts in mummification. They're all about physicality, keeping physicality going. That's what their focus was, physicality. That's what that energy is now. And so this book, the second book of Shemot, is all about the children of Israel, Israel meaning Jacob, are living in Egypt and they become enslaved. That's the book we've entered. We're all enslaved. I'm not really enslaved. Come on. Am I? Yeah, you are. To a culture around you that refuses to recognize the 99%. Live for today, for tomorrow you die. That's it. It's just like, just do the best you can. Life is short. That's the environment. I'm not judging it, just saying that's what it is. Of course, there are many more people who are approaching life from a deeper perspective, from a spiritual perspective. And so what we're gaining here is not only this ability to connect to that deeper reality for ourselves, but also for the world. And the world desperately needs it. Just look around. Just look around. Look at all the conflict. Look at all the lack. Okay. Keep going.
We become prisoners to the dark side of our nature, oblivious and distant from the longings of our soul, our true self.
So that's the thing. What is it's our true self. We need to manifest that that soul aspect of ourselves. That's our true self. And it's not easy to see because so much is taking place in our blind spot. We're blinded by physicality, we're blinded by our physical desires, and we're blinded by being in an environment with people who are, and a culture that is aligned with this desire to receive the self. So this is the first time Egypt, in the narrative in the Bible is really becomes an issue. I mean, yes, at the end of Breshit, the first book, the book of creation, Joseph ends up in Egypt and the brothers and Jacob come down. But this is like here now they're living there. They were just tourists. Now they're living there. You ever think about like you visit a place as a tourist and like, oh my God, it's great. But like living there is a whole different experience. Same thing here. So this becomes the beginning of our march towards Passover, which is all about destroying ego. This is it. We're here. We're ground zero, seed level for the book of Shemot. By the way, Shemot means names. What do we call the second book? Anybody? It's Exodus. We call it Exodus. I can't say Exodus without thinking about the Bob Marley song. It's Exodus, but that's not what it is, as we'll see. It's names. Why do we call it names? Not as catchy? Okay.
Names of what?
We'll see. Ron, why don't you finish up that relevance?
Okay. This passage banishes our reactive, egocentric impulses. Moreover, we attract kind, spiritual people into our life and infuse our environment with positive energy and light.
That's awesome. So part of what we're getting is this ability to negate our reactivity, to manage to restrict our reactivity, to marginalize our egocentric impulses. So we're more present to what's going on and less triggered by what's going, by our triggers, by our blockages, by our emotional trauma, by our family of origin trauma, by the other traumas we've experienced. Where we have this reactivity. We want to restrict that. We want to be present to it. We want to be with that energy and that pain, but we don't have anyone reacting to that. That's Kabbalah 1. Pause. What a pleasure. Embrace it. Embrace the process. Embracing the process speeds it up and lessens the severity. So not only are we able to grow in that way, are we getting the ability to grow in that way, but we're also getting the ability to have a positive impact on the people that come into our lives and the environment that we're in. So another conversation with somebody today about like circumstances happened and some people, befriended them and like, we all have relationships that just end. But part of what we need to understand is that relationship may not have been destined to be part of our experience. And so we really, being part of a spiritual community is an amazing opportunity to connect with people with a shared consciousness who are introspective, who are self-aware, and who are always willing to do their work because they know it's making the world a better place. So we also have to be appreciative of that and that opportunity, which is an amazing, amazing opportunity. Okay, verse 21. Be'ela Shemot b'nei Israel, Rabbi Chia patach, al tilcham et lechem ra'ayin, va'al tit'ab lamat amotav. Al tilcham et lechem ra'ayin, begin de nahama o hana'ad, daharu barnash dahab ra'ayin. Lav iu kedai lemechol uleitane mine. Dei kad nachtu Yisrael lemitzrayim, la yit amun nahama de mitzrae. La ishtevaku begaluta, velaya ikun lon mitzrae.
And these are the names of the children of Israel.
Okay, so Manny, to your question, The names are the names of the children of Israel. Like the portion that we will read tomorrow, this is the title verse. This is the first line of the second book, and it's what we start off with. And it's a listing of the names of the children of Israel, Jacob's children. So it's interesting that the book commonly is referred to as Exodus. That's the big story. That's the name of the book and the movie. But it's about names. Okay, keep going.
Rabbi Kia opened the discussion saying, "Do not eat the bread of him who has an evil eye, nor desire his dainties."
Okay, so that's it. That's a verse from the prophet Mishlei. And so the book of Mishlei. So we have this title verse. These are the names of the children of Israel. And then the Zohar is going to now help us to understand an aspect of the significance of that verse. The Zohar is going to unpack the internal energy of that verse. And how is it going to do that? It's going to bring down another verse to assist us. And what's that verse? That verse is, do not eat the bread of one who has evil eye. What does not eating the bread of him who has evil eye have anything to do with names? It's a real mind bender, huh? So the Zohar will help us, but I just want to point out one thing. That when your parents chose your name, or when you chose names for children, what is commonly understood is that was a prophetic experience. Ruach HaKodesh. That the one time everybody, to a greater or lesser degree, experiences Ruach HaKodesh prophecy is when they got to pick a name for their kid. Fascinating. Because if you ever had to pick a name for a kid, I'm just saying, like, there are different things that could have happened. You could have other family members that are lobbying for a name. That happens a lot. Or, your favorite, Hollywood actor or actress, or I guess they're all actors now, sorry, dating myself. There were things that influenced us that, you read it, it's a book you read, a name you came across, so this is great. We think that we pick the name. That's the way we go through life, thinking we're in control. We are in control. We do have free will. But the upper realm is assisting us in picking the name. And why is that so important? Is the upper realm a control freak? No, that's not what it's about. Your name is a reflection of your soul. Mandy, what's so funny?
Sorry, I tend to get silent. I was just saying, I don't know, Mandy. It's the mid-70s. It's just a popular name. That's it. Nothing special. Nothing prophetic.
Did your teacher give you another name?
No, I asked him for one. He said no. And
Okay.
if you look up Mandy, which is derived from Amanda, it means to be loved or worthy of love. So I'm like, good enough.
Oh,
Alan just said number one hit.
That's a great insight. We'll talk about that offline. So
Yeah.
anyhow, that's what's the significance? What's the names have to do with evil eye? What's the fact that that name is a reflection of your soul have to do with evil eye? Because it's the distinction between being egocentric and being soul-centric. Your name is a reflection of your soul. So the connection is an opportunity for us to grow beyond physicality, to grow beyond our ego, to not eat the bread of our ego, and to draw upon and develop and manifest a greater connection to our soul. That's what names are. That's the opportunity they give us.
I have a question
Yes, Rashid.
about this, very quickly. Okay, if you've had a name given by your parents and they argued about it,
And
and
then
you
what about
hated-
it?
Argued. They argued about my name that I was given, and I hated it. You know, like all my life until I finally belonged to a group that had a name change facility, other than Kabbalah first before Kabbalah,
Right.
and now I have Rachel as well. So I feel like I've cleared the air or something.
Sure.
But isn't there a method of like? I booked into somebody who does readings based on the name you were given, as well as the name that you changed it to. Does it still have an effect?
Well, I would say if you've changed your name, that was probably what you needed to do. This is part of the journey.
Right.
It's not uncommon. I have a family member who passed away, and they were trying to decide what name to use. And we knew what his birth name was, but he changed his English name during his lifetime. So the question was, do we still go with his original Hebrew name, or do we go with a Hebrew name is more closely associated with the name he changed his name to later on in life? And so the guide who we asked about that said, well, what was he thinking his name was? And they're all like, he's thinking it was the second one. He's like, well, that's the one you should go with. So, these are just the things that are on our journeys, and that a name change may be part of what's on our journey. If you are desirous, you think you're desirous of a name change, but maybe it's more reflective of the fact that you're desirous of the right spiritual path. It's just showing up as like, my name isn't right.
So I have a very quick story, not to be too indulgent here, but so my husband, he was named Jamie when he was born. And he said at 7, he went to his parents and said, my name's not Jamie, it's Jim. And he would be called Jim at 7. And I was like, that's really strange. And he said he never identified it was similar. But I was like, that's really strange. Why? Like he connected with that. So, and I've heard that of other people who do that.
Well, it may just be a necessary refinement on their journey, and maybe they progressed through whatever they needed to.
Or maybe
Listen,
it was
it's
a past
as
life.
above, so below. So like they're getting the message.
Or maybe it was a past life, and they were remembering that name from a previous.
Yeah, how about that?
And they were like, because I've heard about that in some,
Yeah, that could also be.
story.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Yair. Phyllis?
So I was given, the name Phyllis when I was born. And then sometime I don't know exactly how old I was when I was given my Hebrew name, but I was pretty young. Maybe not too long after that. I don't know. My parents aren't here to ask, but I've had it all the life that I remember. So is it aspects of both names that are part of my ego, or is it more the Hebrew name?
Well, if you have a Hebrew name, I would say that that's the primary name from a spiritual standpoint. And
Because
that name,
I never
what
really-
I'm saying is that name is an extension of your soul. That name is a manifestation of the DNA of your soul, spiritual DNA.
Okay. And I feel I like that name better. I mean, I'm
What
more
is that name?
connected
If you
to
like,
it.
we can call you that. What is your, what is that
My
name?
name is Sipora. It's
Sephora. It's
Sipora.
a very pretty name. Yeah.
I love it. But
Sure.
I don't really like Phyllis, but it means green bough, which is a branch of a tree. And then I think of, to me, that just feels more connected to the tree of life.
Well, that's great too. Okay, there you
So
go.
there's that. So I've kind of found a way to love parts of both of them.
Yeah, I hear that. Ellen, your hand up?
So I have a funny story. So when I first started Kabbalah, my Hebrew name is Esther Golda. And, it's been with me all my life. It's fine. I have no issues with it. So I was going to the center, and Grunman was being the teacher. And he asked me, he goes, what's your Hebrew name? And I said, Esther. She was a queen. And he gave me this withering look, like, shut up and sit down. I mean, it was just so ego. And I did it in jest, but he was not amused.
I think he maybe at some level he was amused. Suzanne?
So my name Suzanne apparently means Lily, and now you're getting me to, I want to go back and look at what the reference is. And I have this, I've been told in my chart, I have this left column. Can you explain what that really means in terms of our purpose? I know that left column, quote unquote, judgment, to me, it's like finding the mercy in our flaws, like being more merciful about whatever flaws I have. That's how I interpret that, but maybe you've got more wisdom to help us all. Teachable moment.
Yes. So I would need more information, I think. But if you're doing an astrological reading and they're talking about left column, I would want to know more specifically what that reference is to and what that's coming from. But more generally, we all have aspects of judgment that we encounter. And kind of what comes up for me, and Suzanne, you'll let us know if this resonates for you. It's this idea that, and actually, anyone who's taking Kabbalah 4, I know Rocky's taking it with me because I saw her there, but I don't see her on the call today. What Batya Solomon talked about this past week in Kabbalah 4, and it's not too late to take it, by the way. So if you're not there, just jump into the class Tuesday nights, 6 Central Time. What she talked about was the importance of being okay with what we do in life, being okay with our mistakes. We're going pretty far afield here, but it's an awesome point. And we read a portion from, oh, this is a good plug for her class. We read a portion from Rav Schlag's book on world peace, in which he discusses our life and challenges and the mistakes that we make. Let's say he draws the comparison to a fruit. Like if you eat an unripe fruit, it's bitter. And if you wait for it to ripen, of course, it's sweet. So all the places in our lives where we've made mistakes, or we've done things we regret, that's just the bitter part of our experience as we approach our becoming sweeter. And so what the understanding there is, like, don't judge yourself for things that you've done, that you look back on and today you would have done it differently. That was part of your ripening process. That's on your journey because it's what was necessary for you to get to the next level.
Super. I love it. It aligns with right where I'm at today. It's really
good.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good. So let's continue. Back to our story.
All right. Do not eat the bread of him who has an evil eye.
By the way, who knows what is a dainty? Because the verse from Mishlei is, do not eat the bread of him who has an evil eye, nor desire his dainties.
It's me.
And I'm thinking like a fancy cupcake. All right, let's keep going.
Hey, David, what's the book called, Rav Ashlag's?
On World Peace. Keep going, Ron. Okay.
Because the bread or benefit from that person who has an evil eye is not worth eating or benefiting from.
There's nothing there. It's impulse items. It's not sustainable. It feels good at the moment. It doesn't give us long-term satisfaction. It doesn't help us create a life of purpose and a life of meaning and a life of valued relationships. It's not what it's going to do. It's not going to really help us in the short term. It's not going to help us with the trajectory of our life and how we're showing up and our ability to impact our own life and the lives of the people around us and the world around us. Go ahead.
When Israel descended into Egypt, Had they not tasted the bread of Egypt, they would not have been forsaken in exile in Egypt, and the Egyptians would not have been able to harm them.
Oh, so fascinating. We are verse 21 of volume 8, Shemot. That's fascinating. In other words, the reason why the children of Israel encountered slavery and all this harshness was because they were so egocentric. They became so on two levels. One is they were in a culture of egocentricity. And on the second level, they became part of that culture. So they were very egocentric, desired to receive for the self. And had they not succumbed to that influence, the Egyptians wouldn't have been able to harm them. I heard this from a spiritual source recently. It's like we're going through life. We need to confront certain realities. We don't want to confront them. I don't want to start working on my taxes right now. But there are consequences if I don't. And that's a low-level conflict for me. It's all the things that we have to do that are uncomfortable, where we have to confront, where we have to address things, where we're just ignoring things. We know that it's going on, but we keep telling ourselves it's not a problem. And so it is a problem. So how does the universe help us? You get pinched. And the more you ignore it, the greater the pinching is a little bit more painful. Yes, David. Wait, unmute yourself. There you go.
Well, if you wouldn't keep muting me, then I wouldn't have to unmute myself.
If you would keep a quiet background, I wouldn't have to keep muting you. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, Charlie says, Skyhawk says you're sorry.
All right.
What didn't Yosef bring on the egocentricity?
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
I don't think so.
Of course he did.
He did not at all.
He brought it into the equation.
He did not.
Of course he did.
He didn't. He was just, hey, don't shoot the messenger. He was just carrying out the plan. And even if, and we'll read further, even if everyone had to end up even though everyone did end up in Egypt, it didn't have to be the experience they were having. It became the experience that they were having because they were eating the bread of one who has evil eye. I mean, that's what Zohar is telling us. Let's read on because I think it'll answer your question. Everyone clear on this? To the degree that there's clarity? Okay. Let's continue. Because the Zohar has a problem with what it just said. 22. Amar le Rabbi Yitzchak, v'hagezera it gazar. Amar le kola ihu kadka yaut. Dahala it gazar b'mitzrayim davka. Dahala kativ ki ger yiyeh zaracha be'eretz Mitzrayim eleb eretz lo lahem v'afilu be'ara achara. Run.
Rabbi Yitzchak said to him, but it was decreed that Israel should be in exile, and it was incumbent that it be fulfilled even if they did not eat their bread.
Hey, wait a second. There was a decree. They had to go into exile. What do you mean they wouldn't have had that experience? Doesn't make any sense. By the way, just want to point out, the Zohar says it was decreed. Rav Shlag adds, because you see it's in the capital letters, that Israel should be in exile was decreed. That explains what the decree was. Why doesn't the Zohar say it? The Zohar doesn't have to say that. Everyone knows what the decree was. I mean, we don't, but everyone then did. That's the benefit of Rav Shlag giving us his understanding of what the references are. We're too far removed.
Decreed by the Creator?
No, we're too far removed from the temple in Jerusalem. We're too far, like generationally, this is the end of the tikkun. We're approaching the end. We're at the level, our teachers tell us, we're at the level of soul, like, and our feet. Like this is, like we are so close to the end. We're not as elevated as prior generations were on some level. Like they would see the word decreed and they know exactly what they were talking about. They know what decree it was. It's just an interesting paradox. And so again, it's just an acknowledgement of the benefit and the merit that we have to be able to read the Zohar, which on so many levels is impenetrable. Yet with Rav Shlag's teaching and expansion of the words, we're so much more able to make it relatable, not only in terms of how understanding what the references are, but understand it in reference to where it fits within our lives. Because this is not a history lesson here. This is about us gaining greater insight into our lives and the challenges that we encounter. So, back to our story. I thought it was decreed they had to go. Keep going.
He said to him, "All this is right, but it was not decreed that the exile be necessarily in Egypt, since it is not written, 'Your seed will be a stranger in the land of Egypt,' but rather in a land that is not theirs. And it could even be in a different land."
Hey, didn't have to be in Egypt. We're not in Egypt. Do we need to be in Egypt to have that experience? Clearly not. Clearly not. No, we're in North America. That's where we're having our experience. Let's take one more. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Aman de you be'al nevesh de mechle yatir mishar ben inasha oman dehu azil batar me'oi I ira be'hau ra'ayin yechus gar me v'le yechul min hamadile deleit nahama b'shaba alma bar me'hahu lechem ra'ayin Ma kativ ki lo yuchlun hamitzrim lechol et ha'ivrim lechem ki to'eva hi lemitzrayim halach lechem ra'ayin.
Rabbi Yitzchak said, "One with a nefesh who eats more than other people or who follows his intestines, meaning that he is accustomed to fill his stomach with dainties, should slaughter himself rather than eat his bread if he meets that evil-eyed one."
Oh my God, who are we slaughtering? We're slaughtering the ego. We are slaughtering the ego. Go ahead.
For there is no worse bread in the world than the bread of an evil-eyed person.
Oh my God, good.
It is written, because the Egyptians could not eat bread with the Hebrews because it was an abomination to Egypt, meaning they could not look upon the Hebrews as they ate. Such is the bread of the evil-eyed.
Because if you are, and this we're going to close with this, if you are working on expanding your consciousness, on growing, on seeing what you need to work on in your life, what you need to do to manifest your soul, where you need to be more sharing, where you need to be more caring, where you need to be showing up with more empathy, where you need to be drawing the lines of boundaries. If you're on that journey, you know what? Not everybody can handle that. Not everybody in your life can handle that. And we need to be okay with that too. As someone said to me this morning, you can't teach math to a dog. We have our limitations. Everyone's got limitations. I don't want to judge. I'm responsible for this soul. And together, as we get together on this and we share this collectively, we're assisting each other on this journey. So with that, we got to wrap. We're out of time. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Love you all. Have a great
Shabbat
weekend.
shalom. Thank
And
you.
see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Hi, Jackie. Bye, Jackie. Bye.